Hello everyone, Hachadino over here, and this is the actual guide for the video that I just did a little bit earlier, but I was also working on the written mobilities guide and also my update for the build itself. If you are seeing the guide for the first time, you don't need to know anything about the other iterations or even about the video that I did before. I'm going to go through everything: gear, skills, mechanics, abilities. One thing that you want to know, of course, is our main damaging ability for clearing. It's Flicker Strike, but is this not as simple? We use some combos with Ice Strike, Wiggle Slash, and also Tempest Bell. Charge Staff is also a really strong buff that we use, and some Spirit abilities, and a main enabler also in Mantra of Destruction that helps us get some good chaos damage and also synergizes with our main ascendancy, that is Chayula Monk, disciple of Chayula in this case. So I have some footage in the background. It's not a super difficult map per se. Let's say this is a build that I'm saying for, let's say, end to red maps, from yellow to end of red maps, not going for pinnacle bosses yet, because as you might expect, their survivability and everything is not super high yet. We have almost 2k life and some good evasion. Now this is the what itself. I had a clip ready, but I did it quite early on the map, so we are doing this boss. The boss itself has 54% less damage taken from critical strikes, 35% energy shield as life, quite a little bit from some bosses, and he also has some resistances from the boss level. I will explain what is that, and other things that make it quite a little bit tankier. I did misplay and didn't use my mantra of destruction correctly, but that is the build itself, some clearing and then a boss, something like that. The gameplay itself is not super complicated. You can watch my stream if you want to see more footage of it. We go crazy also on bridges and other places, but for now, let's go into the build itself. So we're here, as you can see, Disciple of Chayula. I'm level 87, almost 88. The build itself has some dexterity, intelligence, and other things. The tree, it's also of course in the mobilities guide, but hasn't changed that much from the other one. The changes that we did is we took these points off and put them here. I have subterfuge mask ready for when I change my helmet, but let's go from the beginning, as this is a guide totally. So we begin and we get the attack, cast speed, and other things. We also get the evasion rating, some critical strike, extra lightning and shock. We can take these points off eventually to get general attack damage. That will help us a lot. But right now I still don't take them because that extra chance to shock is never bad. We have crit, some cost reduction. Was not as big in PoE 1 as it is now on PoE 2, because costs can get huge. Like if I didn't have mana cost reduction and other things on my Flicker Strike, thanks to plus skills, I will be using a 500 ability on mana. And as you can see, I only have 600 and something. It's quite difficult to sustain that. Now, there are plenty of ways to mitigate that. One of those is getting these mana cost reductions, also the inspiration support, but right now you can only use one support in one skill, so I'm using it on my Ice Strike. You can see it doesn't have as much mana. If I took that off and I put damage support, it will have 100 cost per attack. This is the tree, nothing crazy. We get all of the power charges available to us. We note the crit ones. We have a strong freeze damage. When we freeze, we get 50% increased damage. and we ignore anything that is not negative elemental resistances. And for electrocute, we have extra build-up, 45%, and then damage taken. You can also get this one also. If you are struggling more on building the up, you can get this. Also has some extra damage. Helps a lot. And you also get some skill speed. Never bad. Now, as for the gear itself, right now, as you might expect, we are using a staff. This is quite a good staff right now. We have plus 2 skills, decent physical damage, attack speed, and critical strike chance. This of course is going into red maps. I've done already all the tier 15s. I have some citadels that I have tried and I depleted. I'm not a good player, and I also have some citadels ready to almost do. One here, then another one here. Now our damage is very strong, as you can see on that boss. It died quite easily with all of those powers, and right now I have 2+2 to boss difficulty at least. The cap is +4, and that was also a level 80 map. You know, you can get up to 82 on the maps themselves, but nothing crazy. My gear, apart from the weapon, is nothing huge. Also, I was going to recommend this unique, but I'm not going to recommend it anymore. When I got this, it was like 5 exalteds. Now it's 5 divines. So just forget what you see. I'm just using it because I had it from then. And then balls protector instead of the no uniques on the previous build. When we use this chest, we get power charges when we use critical hits. I corrupted some and I had one that procced 3 thingies. Of course, the best corruption is getting 30% chance to get a power charge, and also 20% reduced mana instead of 25. But don't get it. Quite expensive, and I will eventually also change this chest for the last version of the build that I have in mind. And the power thread, they gives us a lot of damage, of course, making an extra power charge. We get extra bounces on our flicker strike, also extra power on our charge staff. It's a super strong buff, and you also get that critical strike multiplier. Same thing with Bolt's Protector. You are going to eventually get 10 to critical damage bonus per power charge. And in the super endgame, we may change these boots for some like rare boots to feel resistances and defenses better, because in PoE2 survivability is king, let's say. Gloves plus 2 melee skills, nothing crazy. If you can get some attack speed, even better. Resist, never bad. This belt is when way back I got this belt like day 1 or 2 for 1 exalted, I think. Has been doing a lot of service for me. Right now, as you might expect, you want extra charm slots on your belt, life, mana. If possible, get one of the good bases instead of this one. There depends on what you want. The one that procs 20% of recovery instantly, it's quite good. A stun threshold is never bad, makes it harder to stun, but it's not a super good thing. You can also get some stats on it, attributes, remember. Rings, I'm using one on set for my hand of Chayula. On the guide itself, because I don't expect people to get Serpent's Egg, I put a Sniper's Mark. That makes it like you saw in the clip at the beginning. We put the Sniper's Mark on the boss and we pop it fast. We get one Frenzy Charge, and then we snap the Tempest Bell on the ground and freeze it. We get another Frenzy Charge, and you should keep doing Hands of Chayulas to get the extra charges. But with Combat Frenzy and freezing the bell should also be enough. That's why I'm using right now Temporal Chains with Persistence and Hate and Curse. Do be aware that this can be very mana costly. This helps a lot because it slows bosses and everything by quite a bit. Hand of Chayula makes it so it's single target curse, but it applies instantly instead of 1 second after. In the guide itself, of course, I still prefer people to play with Sniper's Mark because Charge Infusion makes it 1% more skill speed, like more attack speed, very strong. Now let's go for the skills themselves, but first, as you can see here into the bridge, our Ascendancy is Disciple of Chayula. The first skill you get is Waking Dream, making you have this cool ability that goes up in level as you level. And I'm also told that you get some quality when you do the fourth Ascendancy or you go up in levels more. I don't know. Then here you get the Flames of Chayula. If you don't know what they do, I'm going to show you the flames a little bit later, but when you get that red flame, you leech 7% on maximum life. This is a little bit of recovering. This is affected by life regeneration rate. This means that if you have more, you will leech more. But if the map has less, you will also leech less. At a rate, of course, lower. Same thing with mana. These, I'm told, the blue ones still do not recover mana instantly with this node, but likely it will get solved eventually. Of course, effect of duration making it more powerful. The cool ones that we want are the purple flames, making it have us have 40% of damage as extra chaos. Make it seem all our physical, cold, lightning, and even chaos. Everything is added together, as you know, and then you get 14% extra on each flame. As you can see now, the flames are on it. They don't spawn directly on you, so if you stay still, it's likely that you don't see any. But then as you move, you will see them in your surroundings. That is why if you know there's like a boss or something, you can just wait a little bit and you can get a very powerful buff. For example, with 6 flames, it will be super powerful. One thing is they don't refresh, so each flame has its own timer and they expire independently. Of course, with Mantra of Destruction, each kill also gives you 1 charge, making it while you clear having 140% extra damage as chaos. Very strong, very cool, and that is why we are Disciples of Chayula. Also, this node, Reality Rending, use some extra chaos damage that you can get. Our fourth Ascendancy has 2 choices, let's say, because this side is just super underpowered right now. Embrace the Darkness removes all your spirit, that is also quite damaging. Then it gives you a paltry shield of like 500. Or 600 or something. You can get some extra maximum darkness, but that is nothing. You can get like 30% extra damage as chaos if you have full darkness. And also the darkness reservation, because when you get hit, you even reserve that darkness. So most of the time, you don't even have access to this powerful buff. So you just ignore this until they buff it or change it, or I don't know what they want to do. So you have 2 things to do on your 4th Ascendancy. You can go Ravenous Doubts and Consuming Questions, or you can have Chayula's Gift. Right now, in my mind, I'm going to get Chayula's Gifts. I already have 40% Chaos Resistance, making it going to be 80. Very strong thing to have. So those Chaos damage attacks are going to affect me less even than the normal cap. Now, as for Ravenous Doubts and Consuming Questions, one thing that you need to know is that all things that leech right now are physical damage leech. That means that if you get in your gloves or in your ring, or even there's a support gem, like if you put mana leech, here you have, see, 5% of physical attack damage. What does this mean? Of course, this means that attacks like, for example, Ice Strike or the lightning ones or things like that, or even your bell when it has full conversions, like if you have a triple elemental bell going on or even a double one, they don't do that much physical damage, so you are not going to leech that much. That is where Flicker Strike and Whirling Assault come in. These are physical abilities, so they should leech quite a bit. My Whirling Assault, of course, is not it will not leech much because it's a support ability for me. I also have Withering Touch. Used to have 50% less, now it's 25, but still it has no damage thingies. The only thing that it has is some critical strike to get power charges. Now let's go into the full abilities. I already explained into the bridge. There is a cool thing that you can do. I don't know if it's intended or not, but you can socket all of the spirit support gems into the bridge and they affect you fully. So you can have vitality, clarity, cannibalism, really good to have life on kill, and precision. Very good. Now Flicker Strike, as you can see here, you have +8 to our damaging abilities. This comes from my staff that has +6, and then my gloves that have +2. Ideally, you also get an egg that has +3, but those are kinda pricey, and I want them with crit, and also some stats or maybe resists, so they are even pricier for me. I'm trying to save up, let's say. Ice Strike, this is, let's say, our bread and butter to clear, freeze, and proc some cool things. I'm using Inspiration, so it doesn't cost a huge deal. Right now, it's costing 65 if I don't have Inspiration. And as you can see, our mana glow just gets destroyed if we don't have Inspiration. And this is, of course, already with almost 20 to 30% reduced mana cost on my tree. So be really aware if you go hard on levels from skills, you will have that struggle. Of course, the damage is way higher with levels, so that is also good. We also have Martial Tempo, more attack speed, never bad. Crescendo, making us be able to use our finisher twice. The finisher, as you might know, is very strong, 606%. Also has some extra range, never bad. Also on Flicker and Ice Strike we use Quality. Quality is gotten from using something called Gem Cutters Prisms. It's over here. I use them as I get them. So that is why I have this almost all of them with some quality, but not everything. And Ice Strike has Inspiration, Martial Tempo, Crescendo, and then the last one is Ice Bite. Ice Bite works when you freeze the bell. What does it mean? That means that you can get all of your damage as extra cold, as a buff, of course, from this just freezing your bell that you plop on the ground. You get 4 combo, and you get the Tempest Bell, and when you freeze, you get this buff. Of course, try to use Flicker Strike and strong abilities while you have this buff, because it's 30% of all your damage as extra cold. Even your chaos damage that you have from other sources also gets added before it goes to this extra cold one. Now, Whirl Assault, as I said before, it applies Withering Touch. I have Ferocity because I have a surplus of Frenzy charges from freezing my bell, and thanks to Serpent's Egg, let's say. But you can use other things, like you can put some Armor Break or some extra area to help. And then I have Excise, 8 plus 8 seconds cooldown, but makes our crit higher. It has 63 instead of the 40 something normally that I will have. When my Charging Fusion procs, it gets even higher to like 70 something. Now Charge Staff, it's a very strong buff that gives us a lot of added lightning to all of our attacks, and also sends some shockwaves. The shockwaves have almost, in this case at level 18, 99% of the power and 80% of the physical damage that you do from your weapon is converted to lightning. I'm using Primal Armament, amplifying all of the damage elemental that I do. As you know, it also works with Ice Bite. Have Lightning Penetration, so that the lightning damage that it does gets less affected by resistances. Electrocute, making us be able to build the electrocute gouge on bosses and mobs, and lightning infusion. You can put a +1 instead of lightning infusion. I have been trying both kinda, and they are almost whatever. Of course, one good thing about the +1 is that it doesn't make our cold damage less effective. So in the guide I'm going to put a little footnote, but also I don't know that much because the level it only gets like all 3% extra on the shockwave, and the shockwave, as you know, is also a separate attack. In my case, it doesn't have a huge deal of damage, but it procs a lot, and also on each hit of my flicker strike, making it quite a decent source of damage. It also can't shock, remember, if you have electrocute, but don't worry, for shock we have Tempest Bell. Tempest Bell can do a huge deal of damage, but for me it's a support ability. You can change the supports to other things, but right now I have Rage. This means that when I hit the bell and it hits a mob, every 0.5 times we get that 3 extra Rage, and we also have Font of Rage, making us regenerate 2 Rage if you are in the vicinity of Tempest Bell. You can also get Font of Mana and other fonts, making your bell act like an aura thingy that regens life and mana. I'm not that interested in that. And I have lightning exposure. And I'm also going to put, of course, cold exposure, making it when I shock the bell. Shocking the bell is not hard because we get some extra lightning that affects all of our abilities. So with our Will of Ice Strike or even our Flicker Strike, we are going to shock the bell eventually, and when the bell is shocked, it also pulses damage that can shock and get this lightning exposure, making the mob take 20% less resistances. Now for the Flicker Strike, that is our ability, I kind of went through it, but it's of course the biggest damage that you can get, although one is kind of RNG. It is also good that they don't increase mana that much. There are ones like close combat or other things that you can choose that increase the damage a lot. Mana, sorry. And it's combo finisher. We build to 5 combo. You can also use culmination instead. This makes it so you don't have to build combo, and you can also build combo infinitely with other abilities. Very important. It doesn't build off itself, but you only have 3 seconds if you don't hit any enemy. You don't get that extra thing. As it goes right now, this might be the stronger part, because right now you want to hit some a bit, get your charge stuff going, that hit some more, and then when you have everything ready, it is when you are going to Flicker Strike. What I don't really like is those only 3 seconds. Of course, if you are a very mechanically skilled player, you can dodge everything and keep hitting with less than 3 seconds, but some bosses do not let you do that. So I don't really like it. I will try it and see if it works, because at more than 20 stacks, it's better than combo finisher, and it only gets better and better. Now, concentrate effect, the highest damage that you can get, and it has no extra mana cost. Perpetual charge, making it so you have chances to not expend the charges. And Rage Forged, we can spend 10 rage to do 35% more damage. Flicker Strike has also access to some physical supports, but I don't use them because remember, now when you have a support that affects physical damage, it will only affect that, and conversions will go before. Mantra of Destruction is the ability that you use before using Flicker Strike, or before using Tempest Bell if you don't want to flicker, and it makes the ability do more damage, do damage as extra chaos. If mobs die, they get you get the purple flame of Chayula that is empowered by our Ascendancy, so it lasts 10 seconds at least. and also has that 40% extra damage instead of 7 for normal ascendancies. Murderous Intent, this means that you have Cooling Strike. As you know, Cooling Strike net works a little bit different. It cools normal enemies at 30, magic at 20, rares at 10, and uniques at 5. You can increase this threshold, but we don't really. And then Chaos Mastery plus 1 to the skill itself. You can also get some other plus 1 to Chaos, but I don't really care about those modifier. And it's not like anything goes crazy with quality either. You just can use it to combo earlier. Now, Charge Infusion. This is why we are using the chest and the other things. You can drop the this and just play a normal chest and resonance with combat frenzy and sniper's mark to get some frenzies after the buffs. That is a bad gameplay, but this is a very strong buff, and as you can see, this is only level 18. I guess it goes to level 20, and you get more critical hit chance while you have a power charge, making our critical strike chance go from like 40 something to almost 60. Wind Dancer, the strongest, let's say, persistent buff that you can get from for speed, very cheap too, only 30. And you really want this to get as soon as possible to 20 quality, because it gets one extra stage. It has baseline of 3, and then I have 4 of them. It also gets affected by melee skills modifiers, and the Gale Force hit also can crit, has even extra crit. So it also sometimes gives us that extra power charges. So when we have right now 60% baseline, I also have blind and main. I have Splinter too to get some armor break, but it doesn't hit that super hard, so it doesn't break a lot of armor. But you can also put something else over here. I don't know what you would, but don't care that much. Maybe you can put the cold exposure while you get other things, because we get some extra cold damage. The Gale Force, of course, is going to pop when you get hit by a melee attack, and it's a little bit of a knock. Now, Combat Frenzy, this got hugely buff. It was like 6 seconds, and now it procs every 1 point something. Has no quality right now, so I don't know what they will put. But when you freeze, electrocute, or pin, you get a Frenzy charge no more often than X times. This works with our belt, so if we freeze our belt, we get that Frenzy charge. Prefusion to sometimes get an extra charge, and also remember that sometimes we get the 5% chance to go into full. As you know already, we are not playing resonance, that is why we are using balls, but you can play it and with those things do that. I already explained Hand of Chayula, why I like temporal chains and sniper's marks on it. Temporal chains is strong because defensively on bosses makes them slower. It also makes it apply a reduced effect, but you don't really care that much, and to be honest, casting temporal chains, it's quite a big deal. It's almost 1 second of cast time baseline. So I just prefer to have the charge and apply it. On the videos and most of the footage that you will see me play from before is going to be a sniper's mark thing, and that would be it, kind of. What are the, of course, goals for the next video and the next things? We want to have pinnacle fights. We have to get all of our boss points. I'm going to try and also get the mechanic points because they are really hard. I likely buy some breaches and some black rooms or whatever they are. This is my Atlas tree fully completed, the 30 skill points. I do recommend sometimes if you are doing a citadel to hunt out of deadly evolution, because otherwise bosses with extra mods can be really annoying. Same thing you can do with the boss points mod, because boss difficulty, remember, that affects abilities, and they also greatly increase the defensive capability of those bosses. So that is everything. I hope you had a nice one. Remember, we still have the other video up. and even the shorter one that I did just yesterday or the other day. And also that my gear is nothing crazy, but things have been getting super inflated, so maybe it's going to be harder to get decent things. Just the most important thing, as always, the weapon. Get a decent physical damage, and crit attack speed can come a little bit later, and level to skills can come even later, because you also will have to solve the mana problems. Try to get a high ES helmet, like I explained in the guide, some resistances, and critical strike. Critical strike now on helmet and amulet is quite big, because our weapons have a lot of base crit, but there is not a lot of critical hit rate on the tree itself. Like, even me going fully like this, I only have, like, as you can see, 50 to 60, maybe almost 70 with the good thing. And we have a lot of multiplier on our abilities, almost 400 and something. When I crit, I get even higher, and when I have my power threats, I go even further. Right, when fully buffed, it's likely that I have almost 700 critical damage bonus. Now, for another thing, I already explained it in the guide, but I want it to have this as a last footnote, kind of. Jewels are super strong. Getting rage on hit, or rage when you get hit, or some extra damage used, whatever. Increase the stun threshold also helps, so you don't get stun locked or other things. They are also not super pricey, and they have really good corruptions. You can get all resistances, cold resistance. You can also get attributes. Attributes are really big. You can, I would mostly play red gems to get the extra rage or melee hit, but you can also play the blue ones or the green ones. The green ones give attack speed. There is not a lot of attack speed at all. Like, that is why these two nodes are kind of good, and I will eventually get them, but I don't have them right now. And also, if you get critical hit chance and critical hit bonus, those are kind of like the jackpots for the blue ones. And then you can get some energy shield or other things on the prefixes. So that was everything. I hope you had a nice one. Just remember, if you play an evasion chest, to get the visitor skin. And also, if you go higher in level than me, because I actually don't play that much, you can get sockets. There are a lot nearby. You have one here, have one here, you have one here, of course, and there's also one here in the middle, a little bit further away, 3 points instead of two, but they are there. And lastly, for annoyance, there is a lot of strong annoyance, but also the annoying thingies are super pricey. You can have withering prisons, that it works quite well with, when you wither with Whirling Assault, and we do a surprising amount of chaos. You also can get pure chaos. There's also Price of Freedom. It is the de facto best one to get to help with mana costs. There is also one over here that is quite good. Critical hit chance, critical bonus, and more stun build up with critical strike hits. So I hope you had a nice one, and I hope you also can't wait for the last one that I will do when I'm ready to pop some fools. And I will see you on the next video. Subscribe, like, and everything. Also, of course, check out the guide. It's in the. I'm going to put it on the card at the beginning, but also in the description, if possible. And of course, I will link this video to the guide itself and to the other two ones. Maybe if some people can have seen those, they can check this one. That is the, of course, newest one. I do hope things get a little bit less pricey, but I'm sorry. Bye bye.